Welcome to On the Sidelines, the show that discusses sports and how sports intersects our lives. I'm your host, Paul McGrath, and I'm glad that you could join us. We are happy to have with us two men who are really on the sidelines, or should I say, above the sidelines. We have sports radio and television announcers Eric Lindquist of the Worcester Railers and Mick Moninghoff of the Massachusetts Pirates. Later in the show, we will have our usual photos from On the Sidelines segment. We will have a trivia question concerning the picture, and thanks to our friends at Avidia Bank, a great prize for the winner. All you have to do is email us at studio@westbrotv.org with On the Sidelines as the subject matter. I will repeat the address at the photos from On the Sidelines portion of the show. Gentlemen, welcome to On the Sidelines.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thank you, Paul.
All right, well, I just want to start. You're in broadcasting now. I know you wear many hats, but let's give us a little background of where you came from and kind of how you got to where you are now. Mick, I'll start with you.
All right, well, it all started basically even before college. I started one of the very first major events I ever covered when in high school was a Philadelphia Flyers game. Buffaloed my way into the locker room, interviewed a lot of people.
You're in high school?
I was in high school, yeah. Used to get a lot of passes to cover the Phillies pregame.
Yeah.
So you never got in the clubhouse, but you do stuff on the field. Back then, a lot of players and even managers were more accessible. College, broadcast there. Wound up doing some cable things from '89 and then into Comcast. Midwest as a sports director. MSG varsity after that. And then, what was it? China. Football in China, which led to the football
Mass Pirates.
Mass Pirates.
Well, I'll embarrass you a little bit here, but
Okay,
it says you're the 3-time Mid-Atlantic Emmy Award winner for play-by-play.
This is true.
13-time Emmy nominee. Pennsylvania Associated Press Award for TV play-by-play. New Jersey State Interscholastic Athletic Association Service Award, Lehigh University Six-Man Award for contributions to men's basketball. We're going to stop there because we've got to get the show going.
Okay.
But did you ever, in this, you talk about a lot of people, they go in the stands and they have a tape recorder and do the game.
It's exactly how I started.
Did you really?
Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, I got the Lehigh job by going to a Temple game, sat down with some friends, had them do some stats for me. I called the game.
Now this is
It was football.
This is football.
This is how I got to Lehigh football.
Yeah.
And brought the tape to a guy. He says, "Yeah, that's pretty good," and I got the job
From that
just
one,
from audition.
From that one tape.
And actually, there was another audition I did someplace else. I can't remember that got me another job too. But that was the first major one for sure. And I wasn't working for anybody. Sit down, call the game.
So you're from the Philadelphia area? Or
I am.
yeah.
Grew up in New Jersey,
Yeah.
about 90 miles north of Philadelphia, and then moved across the river to Pennsylvania, east and Allentown, Bethlehem, Lehigh Valley. That's what's still my home today.
And you went to college and school?
Temple.
Temple
in
University.
Philadelphia.
Temple Owls. Okay.
Fight for the cherry. You know what? There you go.
Eric,
Hey.
you're homebody from Andover, but why don't you give us a little background? I know you've been here in Worcester. You've gone out to the coast and back.
Yeah, I bounced around a little bit.
Bounced around. Give us a little background on how you got to where you are, maybe into the profession.
Well, a lot like Mick, I had the tape recorder as a young kid at Merrimack College. I grew up right across the street in North Andover, and huge hockey fan growing up. And I'd be sitting in the last row calling Merrimack Warrior games in middle school, on my own, on a Friday, Saturday night. And always, something I always wanted to do. Went to Northeastern. I got involved with the radio station there. Was a Boston Bruins intern for 4 years. And I was lucky enough, my first crack at it, again, a lot like Mick, the Lowell Lock Monsters had a full-time radio guy, didn't have a color guy. And at the time, I was working for my family business, and I followed Ryan Johnston around during training camp. And I said, hey, look, I am going to be your color guy this year, if you like it or not. You don't have to pay me, but I'm all in. And he allowed me to call a preseason game with him. And it kind of took off from there, and we ended up becoming great friends. I married him and his wife. That they met, through American Hockey League games. And since then, I've been doing it for 15 years. I bounced around a little bit. I was in Long Beach, California, Lowell, as I mentioned, Worcester now for 10 years. So having a blast. I still enjoy it, and again, I kind of age myself. I can't believe I've been doing it this long, but again, still enjoy it and having a good time.
But one thing you mentioned I wanted to get into is you have an analyst. So when you are doing a game, sometimes you're alone, sometimes you have an analyst. Does it take a while maybe to get used to that person, or you kind of just like wing it, do it on the air? You've probably had different. I know I've seen you with Jerry Cheevers, with Brad Park. How do you get into that? How does that work for you?
Well, I always tell the pros, just let me call the play, especially it doesn't even matter if it's radio or TV. When there's a stoppage, as soon as the play's over, that's your time. I'll get out of your way. Yeah. There was a great trumpet player. His name was Maynard Ferguson, jazz artist. Yeah. And I said, Maynard, I love the way that you let everybody in your band solo. And he said to me, I don't have to play 61 minutes out of every hour. It's the same way I treat a broadcast or a telecast. I call the play, I get out of the way. Let me set the next formation and do my job from there. That's it. So that's how I get that rapport, and it's their show. They're the stars. They're the experts. Let them talk.
Would you say it's more difficult to be a good analyst as opposed to a play-by-play guy? Because I find, play-by-play, you just, boom, 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 right? You call the action, but to find like a really good color analyst, I think it's hard. Like it's a really difficult gig to get, and do a good job doing it.
Yes, it is. I think they have to be more the expert, and then they have to be able to execute it as far as letting the people know in simple terms. And if they can do that, then they're a great analyst. I used to judge a lot of different Emmy areas, and sometimes trying to think, Chico Resch. So I had a New York judging, and I would judge the different analysts. I thought Chico, as he got more and more into it, really dissects a game really well.
Do you think, we're doing hockey here, but the position they played, like Chico Resch, Jerry Cheevers, the chief down there in Tampa Bay, the goalies, do they make better analysts, you think, or not? Or is that just one of those things?
No, not necessarily. No? I mean, I worked with Orest Kinderchuk. He was pretty good. Brad Park, a defenseman. I worked one game with Andy Brickley. So, and he was a winger, wasn't he? So
yeah, Andy was.
There you go. I mean, I don't think it really matters. I mean, you were talking, you like watching the NHL and Eddie Olczyk. I watched him play. How
about you, analyst? Sometimes you're on your own, too.
You know what? I prefer to have someone, sitting to my left and calling the game with me. I think it keeps it fun. There were times over the years that, I call games on my own, but I prefer to have someone, riding shotgun with me and having a good time. And, I feel, it adds a certain different perspective where, you can have more fun. You're talking to your buddy and watching a game and calling it. So I prefer to have someone, right there with me calling the game.
I remember once back in the day, the Ice Cats had a contest, and for someone to be the analyst, the co-host for radio for like a period. And there was one rule they told the person. If the Ice Cats score, don't cheer. And guess what the guy did? That was automatic.
Well, yeah. I mean, and I think you have to be genuine even as a play-by-play announcer. Yeah. I worked for the Phantoms, and at the time the GM was Frank Maselli. And Frank, I'd say to him, Frank, I'm going to call the game straight. And if somebody from the other team makes a great play, I'm going to say, that's a great play. Because one guy, that's a goal. No. I mean, show the emotion, show the joy of the game. And he says, yeah, I'd have it no other way. So once I got that established, I was just, I call the game like I see it.
Yeah. Well, you call it, but I mean, you kind of be more kind of a homer, I think. I mean, the rail is, you're the rail guy.
I look at it that at the end of the day, I have 20 sets of parents that are listening no matter what. And I'm talking about the players' parents. So I want to make sure that at the end of the day, that those 20 sets of parents, relatives, enjoy the game. If one of the players makes a mistake, I don't, kind of dive into it, knowing that, again, at the end of the day, yeah, it's professional hockey, but, they're young players, they have families, and I want to make sure that the families enjoy the broadcast. And that's usually, that's where I start at. Once I get that out of the way, then I can do everything else. But I want to make sure that the families enjoy the broadcast and they feel good about their, what their son did on the ice.
How about the difference between TV and radio? Are you a different person doing a TV versus a radio? Are there some nuances there, or is it, you've got to call the game?
There are nuances, and I've worked with one producer, and he says, "Don't tell me they're on the left. They can see they're on the left." And so I've got a lot of radio still ingrained in me. I get a little too over descriptive, but I think there's a fine line to walk there. But no, you can be a lot more laid back and not as descriptive with television, because they can see it.
Yeah, but you still want to know who the people are. I mean,
Exactly.
that's the big thing, because especially in hockey, it's so fast.
Well, I have a face for radio, so I prefer the radio. I get to do a handful of TV games on Charter TV3, but I'm a radio broadcaster, and a lot of the radio broadcasters want to get into TV, but I enjoy the craft of the play-by-play on radio. I think it's different. It's and it's old school, and in a way, hockey-wise, I'm old school and prefer the radio side.
You've done, both of you probably, I've seen basketball, hockey, football, basketball, baseball, wrestling. Wrestling
on the radio is the hardest, especially because I learned it and never wrestled as a youth or as an NCAA athlete. It's a little tough, but here again, hopefully you're working with an analyst, and you know the general rules, you know what's going on, and you set up your analyst to either describe it or confirm exactly what you're seeing. I always ask my analyst a lot of questions. Like why is he trying to do that? Or what are you seeing? Because if they can articulate it, it's great, because now they really break it down for your listener or your viewer.
But how did you prep for wrestling? I mean, if I wouldn't know what a hold is or this or that. I mean,
I had to learn.
All of a sudden, you're live and in color or wherever you are.
I had to learn a lot, but the more you do it, the more you see it, the more you recognize it, and it's just like anything else. The hardest one I ever had to do, an equestrian event, Devon Horse Show. So they're doing the horses jumping over the oxer and the double and
Where was this?
Devon, Pennsylvania, and luckily the analyst was a former Olympic rider. So I got the basics. I knew what was going on. I knew what I was walking into. And then it's like, tell me this, tell me that. What are you saying?
Nick, how did you get that job? Was there 42 guys trying to get that job?
No, there was not 42 guys. It's like, who's doing it? Oh, here's Mick. Mick, you got the equestrian event. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. You do what you got to do.
Eric, you've done baseball, hockey, etc. Do you find one harder than the other, easier, or any preference? Or?
Well, I prefer hockey. That's my sport. Although I've been told that I'm better calling a baseball game. So who knows, But I think baseball, because there's a lot of dead air. So you got to fill up, 9 innings and be interesting. And, when I was calling baseball, I was by myself a lot of the time. And heck, you kind of... I tell stories anyway, but there were only so many times I could tell about my grandma's, turkey stew or something, in a 4th inning and a rain delay. So, baseball's difficult. It's tough. Yeah. And unless you're really into it, it's really tough.
So, to fill in, I know Doc Emmerich on the hockey, he's got a notebook like this, on the players. Do you have any notebooks or aids that you use or you use in different broadcasting?
The answer is absolutely.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I have what I call the biggest spotting board known to man. I try to do a flip card, so you have your offense, the other team's defense, flip it over, and not only their stats, but any little things that will jog my memory, something about biographical or something they had going on this week or where they're from, and half the time you never use 9/10 of it.
But you never know.
But I always make up my line charts for hockey. That's what you're supposed to have. A lot of that material you'll never use, but you have it.
You got to do your homework.
Yeah. Now, did you learn that and create your own, or did you learn it pick it up from different people you may have worked with? How did you develop yours?
So I have a 1-sheeter as well, and I kind of copied it from Ryan Johnston, who I started with in Lowell, and I have over 1,000 of these 1-sheeters now. Every single game I do the same exact format. I type it up to start, and then I go in with my blue pen, and I'll write notes underneath. And just like Mick said, I'll spend all this time on it, and at the end of the day, I have it there if I need it, but a lot of the time I use about 3% of what's on there, but it's good knowing to have that crutch if you need it. That if you are looking for something, you got it right there, and you gotta have it.
So I've got my glasses here. I noticed a lot of times you see the different broadcasters, they stand up. Are you a stand up or a sit down? Or how does that work?
It depends on. I usually start standing and then I kind of ease into it. But if it's a close game or there's a scrap, I've been known to stand up and get the arms flaring and it's a workout. By the end of the game, I'm sweating. Like
you got to take a shower.
Yeah, I'm sweating. So it's I go all in. So I would say I'm a stander.
Mick?
100% stand-up guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Even when I'm doing hockey, I only sit if you have to. Remember, it's one of those situations you have to be seated. Brown football, you had to be seated. And it was just one of those things. But no, I love standing. I like pointing out where different people are. Yeah, it gets me in the flow of the game. And the other thing, too, is if I'm going to go, you've done some football outside?
No.
No?
No, Never done football.
Okay. I'm the guy that everybody hates in the press boxes. I want the window open because I don't want to be in a booth. No, I want the crowd noise. I want to feel it. If it's cold, it's cold. Too bad.
It is what it is.
Yeah. I'm one of those.
Well, you don't have that problem in hockey.
Can we open the window now? I'm dying in here.
Well, one thing I like to do is go over different who your favorite announcers are, and we'll go back. I go back a ways. And I liked radio because when I was younger, the games weren't on TV.
Right.
I mean, now it's like a God-given right that the games are on television. But back in the day, I started with baseball. With Kurt Gowdy was one of the big fellow in for the Red Sox, and they would go from TV to radio sometimes back and forth.
Sure.
My favorites though were two guys named Ned Martin and Jim Woods in the '70s, and they were two guys that were very knowledgeable. Ned was an English major, and it sounded like, though, they'd be having a couple of beers, watching the game, having a great time, but telling you everything that they enjoyed it to make you enjoy it. Mm-hmm. They were the best, as far as I'm concerned. On TV, I think that Don Arcillo and Jerry Remy had a great camaraderie. Sure. So those are the ones I enjoyed, and I think the fans, maybe, they might draw the people to watch the game, because you enjoy, after a while, you get to know them. And any in baseball that you might have in baseball, we'll do baseball first, that enjoyed or listened to or thought, hey, this is the way the baseball should be done?
And it's funny, you mentioned that, and the majority of the names you mentioned are more generic to this area. Mm. And I think that goes into radio. So fans of hockey in this area may listen to you, Eric, because you're the guy who's the local guy.
They're stuck.
And they get to know you, and they feel like they know you from the stories of the turkey that you tell. Yeah. So I'm going to say in baseball, it would have been, for me, Harry Callis, because that's Philadelphia area. Yep. He was also the voice of NFL films for a long time. But he was more of a Philadelphia guy as far as radio went. TV, thank you so much, Brent Musburger. I mean, that's the guy that I think in my era growing up, who I followed. And of course, who didn't like, Keith Jackson?
Oh, Keith, the football, yeah.
So watching football, if it was a Brent game or a Keith Jackson game, it was the big game.
I can, when I was younger, my grandmother lived in Wilmington, Delaware. So when we'd go down there, it was special for me to listen to the Phillies because I like the Red Sox, but I like to hear someone else. And maybe you would know who the fellow was, but I remember listening on the radio, and this guy's call was, "He struck him out."
Oh, that was Harry Callis.
Oh, that was him.
He struck him out.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
Here's the
that was him.
Pitch there.
So, but you remember, certain announcers, and they have their little, I don't know, nuances.
All right, I gotta ask, what's your call? You always have that. If it's a goal call, what's your call?
You know
your
what?
Signature call. Everybody has one.
I think it's more of it's not necessarily a goal call, but on a fight, I do a ding, ding, ding after, which like a big fight. So right. I think maybe that's would be my call, but you know, there's some broadcasters that have they almost kind of they know what they're going to say before the game even starts, right? I like to wait until things unfolds. Like
Sure.
I don't use big words. I don't I don't have a long list of really fancy sayings or anything like that. I like to I dumb it down. And part of it is because I don't have a big vocabulary anyway. Yeah, I went to college and all that, but I don't think you need to use big words to make things exciting or make yourself feel smart or whatever that is. It's again, at the end of the day, it's a cab driver listening to the game, or a regular person, and so I like to keep things simple.
Well,
Stupid.
You did Northeastern baseball. You've done baseball. Were there any baseball announcers you listened to? Or said
Jerry Truppiani and
Truppiani, yeah.
Joe Castiglione.
Castig, yeah.
Castigs was a professor of mine at Northeastern, and it was so I grew up listening to those two. But on the hockey side, Fred Cusick and Derek Sanderson. I grew up idolizing those two. I had Derek Sanderson's jersey growing up, and I find myself now sometimes, if it's a rainy Sunday afternoon, I'll be on my phone going on YouTube and listening to the old calls, and I can get emotional, listening to, a game back in late 80s with Fred and Derek calling the games, because I remember where I was or what I felt like when I was listening in the first time. So those by far were my two favorite.
He's a WHA fan.
Nothing wrong with that.
Derek, right?
So how about I'm gonna do we're gonna do basketball, and again this will be generic here for you to listen to basketball. And the one here in Massachusetts was Johnny Most. Johnny Most was Havlicek stole the ball.
Exactly.
Everyone
set
remembers
himself
that.
on fire once.
But the thing about Johnny, I
The
think,
cigar?
Ashes. He lit himself on fire.
he was lit up. But anyway, back in the 50s and 60s, as we said, the games were on, and I think they had to sell the game. Okay, Johnny Most would have nicknames. We talk about trumpet nicknames, but he would have nicknames for the villains on the other side. Wayne the Wall Embry or whoever. and then, but I think you'd listen on the radio, and you'd Wayne the Wall Embry, and I think it would get you, geez, I got to go see this guy. What's he look like? And then Wayne the Wall got traded to the Celtics. He was the nicest guy in the world. but I think in those days, the radio guys, as you say, I love the radio. I like radio over TV. But they had to be more descriptive, and I think they were also trying to sell seats at the same time.
And you got to over-exaggerate, too. Like I mentioned, I'm a big hockey fight guy, and you would think that, any fight the Worcester Railers had, the Worcester Railer guy won big, but if you're watching the game on TV or you're at the game, he might not have won that fight. But, you're right. You are selling tickets, and I like to paint villains. I like going into an arena and, getting involved with the fans and get nasty. It's fun. But at the end of the day, after the game's over, it's a handshake and...
Well, it's entertainment.
It is entertainment. Yeah. Some of that WWE stuff in there. So, and again, you get a 72-game season. You got to keep things interesting. You got to have fun, and you got to, again, sometimes over-exaggerate what's going on.
You must have been in Philly when Wilt Chamberlain was there, and they played the Celtics.
Actually, it's a little before my time.
A little before, okay.
Yeah. But I can go back to covering Dr. J playing
okay.
against the Chief and McHale and
Bird. They had
for
their
sure.
little differences, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest things I'll ever remember was I'm standing on the corner of the court at the Spectrum, and they had a great PA announcer named Dave Zinkoff. So he introduces, the Celtics. He introduces Dr. J, Julius Erving, the whole thing, right? And then I'm standing there, and somebody brushes me, and I realize it's going to be the national anthem. It's the jazz saxophone great Grover Washington Jr. Yeah. So I'm standing on the corner of the court, Grover, Doc, and I'm thinking 17,500. This is pretty cool. It was probably it's like, where are you now? That was the one moment I'll always take away. Fantastic.
Football. Well, again, I go back a little bit longer. In Massachusetts, we didn't have the Patriots. We had every Sunday the New York Football Giants. With Chris Schenkel. and he was the announcer, so we got to know him. But I think here in Massachusetts, Gil Santos and Gino Cappelletti, to me, were the iconic duo. Gil had the pipes and could call the game, and Gino could see a penalty before it happened. I mean, he was just. I can remember the Snow Bowl. We were coming home from a game in Lowell, hockey game in Lowell, just getting into Westboro, and it's when Brady supposedly fumbled, and I said, "Well, there's no
The tuck.
the tuck," and I'm thinking, "Well, there's no sense rushing home to see this," and Gino says, "No, I think it might be the tuck rule." It's like tuck. I mean, Amos Tuck is in or whatever is in Philly, but what is he talking about? He knew.
He had it.
Right.
Those guys were iconic in football. I don't know any football guys that you might.
Those are my two.
Yeah.
So I'm right there with you. I grew up listening to those two, and talk about the chemistry they had. You mentioned Remy and Orsillo, and Fred Cusick, Derek Sanderson, like duos. People I think remember the duos as opposed to one that's kind of stands on their own, and I think it's the banter back and forth. They're having a good time.
I think, well, you wouldn't listen to Johnny Most back in the day, but I don't think Johnny would have anybody. Johnny was just, just would go, don't get in my way.
Don't get in his way. Exactly.
But Johnny was special. Football, because you've done football.
I have. Grew up as a little kid. I remember Ray Scott. You remember him in the national games?
Well, he would.
he
I equate him with the Packers.
Right.
But, yeah.
Exactly. But he did the national games too. And then after that, in Philadelphia now for the longest run has been Merle Reese, who does a lot of the NFL stuff too. So the NFL films. But I mean they're like I say, it's more of a thing that you grew up listening to, and they're the people you will identify with. I think more than a national announcer, because that's home to you.
Well, they're your guys.
Yeah, that's what
Who
you hear.
says I like Joe Buck?
Does he call a good game? Yeah, he calls
does.
a good game.
He
But a lot of people
does.
don't like
Right.
it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well,
A lot of people don't like Jim Nantz, but it's just
Well, a lot of people. I think sometimes they take it that you're against that announcer is against your team, whether they are or not.
Yeah,
it's perception.
Sure it is.
And Joe Buck, I think, around here,
He's
is
not our
perceived-
guy.
He's not our guy.
No, he's
not Don and Jerry.
No.
no, he's not.
But he's got to do the national game. He's got to really try to be neutral. It's like the ref. The ref can never get it right
Oh yeah,
in hockey or umpires and any of those.
it's like being a president.
Yeah.
50% will like it, 50% won't. That's just the way it is.
You're lucky if that's what it is.
It's true.
I'll go do hockey now. The announcers, again, I like the radio guys. Okay, Bob Wilson, maybe before your time.
No, I remember. Yeah.
He was tremendous, and Dave Gosha to me
Did a great job.
Was creme de la creme.
Yeah.
He was, and of course now he's with TV, with Vegas. But again, for some reason, and then a lot of times when they do the voiceovers for highlights now, they'll use the radio guy to do the highlight. They don't use a TV guy. So any hockey radio announcer in Philly that you
Gene Hart. Gene Hart called games for years. Yeah. Bruins fans will remember Gene Hart.
Oh yeah.
Back in was it 74?
The mid 70s, yeah.
Gene Hart called a lot of games. Had a lot of great calls, and he played it. If there was a great play by Phil Esposito, he called it that way.
It was what it was. Yeah.
It was what it was. He was a pro. I'm trying to think who did the St. Louis Blues games.
Well, Bob Wilson did it for one of 2 years, but then it was Dan Kelly.
Dan Kelly,
yeah,
with Gus Kyle. Yeah, Dan Kelly was one of the guys because I used to try to tune in the games on the AM radio.
Yeah,
and you hear the guy in Pittsburgh, what a bonanza, the whole thing, but I can't remember who he was. But I always liked listening to Dan Kelly. Yeah.
What I like, and as a Boston guy, maybe I shouldn't say this, but Lauren Hart, when she does the national anthem, when she does God Bless America with Kate Smith, which is another issue now, but that to me was just tremendous. Set everybody going.
I can remember them playing the Kate Smith recording in big games. I remember a Chicago game in particular, and the place is vibrating, and it's like there's not a dry eye in the place, and this game was over before it started. It really was. And and then I hate to say it, the Clark Barbara Leach line. And, they're all Hall of Famers. I think Reggie might have made the Hall of Fame finally too. But get out of the way. This game's over.
Yeah, no, that's tremendous. Right now, we're talking broadcasting. Massachusetts Pirates, Worcester Railers. Your title really isn't broadcaster. You're doing. I don't know how many hats you're wearing. You got one on now, but.
So this weekend alone, I was subleasing apartments where our players would live during. I've got an ad on Craigslist. My phone is blowing up of people that want to go and see the apartments, but you do a little bit of everything, and that's part of the job that I also like. I like to be busy, and it gets you, able to do a lot of different things. Some might not be glamorous, but it keeps you busy and it keeps you on your toes.
So who leases the apartments, the players or the team?
Well, so we have an apartment that we have for over the course of the year, but the players we're responsible for housing the players. So, but they're only here for 7 months. So I have 5 months of empty apartments that I need to find someone that wants a nice home in Worcester. Are you looking?
4 or 5 months.
Yeah. Well, 3-month leases.
Well, 3 months. Oh,
Yeah.
and
Give me a call, railershc.com. My phone number's right there if you're looking for an apartment. I got two left.
You got 2 left.
I do.
Oh, there you
Yeah.
That's so nobody ever thinks of that as part of your job.
No.
I mean,
and again, like the broadcasting part, I'd say is about maybe 2% of my job.
Yeah.
And what people don't realize a lot of the time is, the puck drops at 7:00. I'm usually at the rink at 8:30 a.m. and making sure that the locker rooms, they get the stats downstairs for the coaches. A lot of prepping for the game, not necessarily on the broadcast side, but when you get 5,000-6,000 people coming in, there's a lot to do to get ready for when the doors open at 6. So a lot of the time, I'm running up to the broadcast booth, right for the pregame show at 6:30, dripping sweat. And a lot of the time, it's the only time I can relax. When, do you sit or you stand? I usually start kind of sitting for the pregame show because I'm so exhausted. And then you kind of build up and get excited. And, next thing you know, you're standing and, hooting and hollering. But it's a long day. A lot of the time, it's 14, 15 hours. And, we play Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And by the time Sunday gets around, this past year, I really felt my age for the first time. And, those Sunday games, by the end of it, I was exhausted. I'd go home and, get some takeout and hit the couch, a little Chinese food, and I was done.
well, you do the 3 and 3, and sometimes that 3 and 3 isn't all in Worcester.
No, there's a lot of travel back and forth, too. And, I've spent a lot of time on the bus over the years. So, but you learn that when you're on the bus, a lot of the time, that's when I do a lot of my game prep. It's the one time where I'm not in the office. I don't have 10 or 12 other people trying to get at me. It's my alone time, and I can really focus on preparing for a broadcast.
Yeah. Mick, Massachusetts Pirates, second year
Second
I think
year.
here. So we're doing promotion. We're doing more than broadcasting too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The thing about it is the backdrop that gets hung up over by the bench, that's got to be done. All right. Then make sure that the vitamin 1 water bottle that the sideline reporter, when they talk to players, she hands it to you, so you got that vitamin 1 bottle. Right. So make sure you pack it.
gotta
So
be there,
all
yeah.
those little things you got to check off. And then finally you get a chance to relax. You do your social media stuff before the game, run around, and I don't just put up shaky. And I said, there is no shaky cam video with the Massachusetts Pirates. And if it doesn't look like this, then we're not using it. So edit it, post it, get up and call a game, take the stuff down that you put up, go back, grab your rig and shoot some post-game sound. Get your highlights, maybe from the 3-play in the DCU Center, and you know what I'm talking about. It's the replay machine. Maybe get a bite to eat, probably not. Go back, stay up to about 3 a.m., update the website, get the story posted, all that, so it's done. And I take a lot of pride in knowing that when you click on the Massachusetts Pirates site, which I'm sure that you have the same thing over there, Eric, that the standings are updated. The game story is there. The video goes with it. Yeah, it's like...
It doesn't happen on its own.
No, and nobody's doing it but you and me. That's
Yeah.
just the way it is.
Yeah.
Now, Massachusetts Pirates, indoor football, in the National Arena League. Different game. I watched a little bit. I mean, it's different. You've got 8 players on the side.
Correct.
You've got think the running back or end can get a running start. I mean, you got some nuances here. Different, and it's high scoring. I mean, it's got to be very, very exciting for those that go.
I met the guy who invented the game of arena football. His name is Jim Foster. When I was a sports director in the Midwest, he was one of the owners of the Steam Wheelers, and he had holdings, I think, in Iowa. So the Iowa Barnstormers. And he was a University of Pennsylvania grad, and he told me how it all came about. I think he wrote notes on a napkin. But basically, he wanted...
How old? How many years are we talking here?
Arena Bowl, 30. It's about 32 years of arena football.
That much? Yeah.
When you look at the Arena Football League, which was like the first, and what a lot of people say is maybe the best players, debatable. But yeah, it all started in the AFL. It is built for high scoring. You do have that one man in high motion, which makes it really hard for a defensive back to cover somebody who's already got a running start.
Well, yeah, the guy, they got a time. He hits the line and boom, he's gone.
The mindset of this game is they're going to score points. Try to get a few defensive stops. Make sure that you score every time you have the ball, and hopefully it balances out. You get a couple more scores than they do because your defense stood up a few times, and you win. And if you're a defensive back, have a real short memory, because you know what? There's a touchdown, but you'll be back on the field stopping the next time. That's just the way it is. That's that mindset in that game.
So you said you did, I think, football in China?
I did.
What kind of football was that?
It was regular arena football.
Arena, yeah.
The thumbnail was 50% of the players had to be Chinese or of Chinese descent. So maybe you lived in America, you had Chinese blood. You tried out, you got drafted. You had to have 4 Chinese players on the field of all times of your 8. And they had
Talk about management here.
Oh, yeah. So, but all the coaches were foreigners. They were from the U.S.
Yeah.
So, they had one coach, as a matter of fact, the coach of Philadelphia, was Seoul in the AFL, said, I want players who all speak English. I don't care what their skill level is. If I can communicate with you, I'll take you over you because I can talk to you. Yeah. There's a gentleman who hasn't done a lot of color with us this year, but he did last year. His name is J.J. Raderink, great arena quarterback. He actually developed hand signals to talk to his Chinese receivers so they knew what to do and when to do it. Because he says, how else can I communicate? He didn't speak Mandarin. It was hard. Yeah, but it was... After about half the season, they got it. We only played like 6 games.
Yeah.
Each team played 6 games, 18 games total.
So you were doing play-by-play. Mm-hmm. Now, was there a Chinese broadcast, or were they also doing...
There was.
Are you doing it in Chinese?
No, I did not. I don't speak Mandarin, but here's what we did. We basically did a split feed, so it was the same video, but we had one set of U.S. announcers bringing the games back to, at the time, One World Sports, and the other went to iQIYI, which was in China, and we found either a coach who could speak Mandarin and a play-by-play guy who could speak Mandarin. And we had split audio. Yeah, so the same game that you saw, but two different sets of voices.
Now, China is a large country, needless to say. How close? I mean, what was the travel like in China?
It was big because we went from probably the most northern city, north capital would be Beijing, and then you wound up with the last game in Shanghai. So, yeah, it was only once could we bus from one place to another. We had to fly everywhere. Yeah. And we were even in, was it Qingdao? Well, Qingdao is where the beer is. I'm trying to think. Dalian. Dalian is in the north kind of coast, and across the big ocean was the guy with the rockets. So we said, gee, I hope he doesn't press the button. North Korea.
So, what was your perception of China? Cultural differences, and
well,
you must have seen quite a bit.
I did, but honestly, the major cities are really what I would call westernized, and we stayed in great hotels, and there was a lot of people who could speak English. And when you're in a major city, they make it look like this is great. It's clean. It's fantastic. But the one thing I will say, when you're driving on the elevated highway, there's a lot of shrubbery. And when you look between the shrubbery, that's where you see the dirt road, the little hut with the tin roof. The
old China.
And so that's still prevalent.
China crowd. How about from a hockey crowd, when you go from city to city? Different crowds, or a hockey crowd's a hockey crowd? Any cities that you stand out? Or?
You know what? I love going to St. John's, Newfoundland. From the moment you get off the plane, like they're ready for you. Like they're excited to have you there, even though you're the opponent. So But I've been on the West Coast. I've been on the East Coast. I think hockey fans are their own breed, and Worcester's got their own breed of hockey fans, and I enjoy it. I'm part of that breed, so it's. But I would say, I've done baseball. I think baseball fans are a little bit different. They might be, not more laid back, but if you're going to sit and watch a 3.5 hour game,
say the game may make you laid back
right
after a while. Yeah.
So, but I've been to a Mass Pirates game. Those fans are different than Worcester Railers fans, which, and if you go to a basketball game, there's different fans there. So. I think across the board, it's depending on what sport is, will depend on what type of crazy fans you have.
Well, I think the one thing about the Mass Pirates or the Railers are they're professional sports, but the price is affordable. You can see, and these guys are professional. I mean, they do take it serious.
Well, game one of the Stanley Cup Finals, I think, tickets, face value were $750. For that price, you could have, a season ticket on the glass, for a Worcester Railers game, and a lot more. So, we like to say, affordable family fun, and that's, the Pirates are the same way. It's bringing families in, a safe, fun environment in downtown Worcester, and we feed off one another. It's the Worcester Bravehearts too. It's providing that entertainment where you're not going to break the bank.
I think Worcester has a certain hockey crowd because we had the Ice Cats and the Sharks and the Railers, but I think it's the same people because it's local. Those are the local guys.
You know what? The Booster Club is, they follow the Ice Cats to the Sharks to the Railers, and we like to say it's we're one big dysfunctional hockey family, and it's. And the people that are the diehards hockey fans in Worcester, I think they're some of the most passionate fans that I see, anywhere, throughout the country, in Canada.
Yeah, and even though it might not be, the teams may not be associated with the Bruins, you like to see some of those players go up to the AHL or to the NHL. Then that's my guy up there.
Well, you know what, Tuukka Rask, he'd come into the DCU Center playing for the Providence Bruins. Brad Marchand, the list goes on and on. Zdeno Chara, he played at the DCU Center. It's, and that's, again, it's, affordable family fun. You're not seeing the NHL, but again, I can't afford $750 to go to a Stanley Cup final game. I don't know who can. Right. So I prefer, across the board to go to minor league sports games.
And there was a coach that, you align yourself with a lot of the coaches that you cover. And I should have stayed in touch with the first coach I ever covered with the Trenton Titans. Some guy named Bruce Cassidy. Yeah, go figure, right? So there you go.
Great guy, because he was a head coach in Providence, always very approachable. He'd be in the press room before the game, talking hockey. He was... among the coaches in the American Hockey League, one of my favorites on the opposing side.
Yeah, there you go.
So, Mass Pirates, how they coming along? I mean, do they get some players from the NFL, or some of those may go to the NFL?
Both.
It's a two-way.
We just signed Dexter McCluster,
Yeah.
who had a 7-year pro career. Actually, had an All-Pro season in 2013 with the Kansas City Chiefs. He's a wide-out kick returner. We also signed Trey Jackson, who played with the Patriots their Super Bowl year. I want to say when they beat Atlanta. I think he was hurt, so he didn't really play that season, but he played the year before. He did get his ring though. So we have a lot of players who have 2, 3, 9 games, 19 games in the NFL, who were maybe that third receiver or a lineman who played a couple of games, but then got released. Almost, I don't want to say every, because I can't, top of my head, I can't confirm it, but almost every player at one point has signed an NFL contract and been in camp and maybe part of the last cuts or bounced around a little bit, was on a practice squad. So it's a really high level when you think of it that way. Yeah.
Right. So go to a Mass Pirate game, you're seeing real professional football players.
Absolutely.
You're not seeing guys coming off the sand line.
No way. I mean, these guys, like I say, a lot of them have some NFL game experience or had at least been in camps. Most of them played at major colleges. So we have a couple guys who have won national championships. So, yeah, it's a real high level. There's no doubt.
Okay. We're going to take a break here for a minute, guys. Going to give a break, take a break. And we're going to do photos from on the sidelines. And some of us like to take pictures. A lot of us like sports. And this here is, I for the younger people, I say, hey, try taking pictures. And then maybe you get them autographed. And then there's a story that goes with this one. This one here is a picture of John Slaney, who comes from St. John's, Newfoundland, who we were just talking about.
I was going to bring his name up, but I didn't want to give it away.
Well, we'll get there. So what is the story? Why am I taking John Slaney's pictures? Well, my wife's mother, my mother-in-law, was born on a French island by the name of Saint-Pierre-et-Miquelon, which is 10 miles off the southern coast of Newfoundland. And her maiden name was Slaney.
There you go.
So after she passed away, my wife Mary Beth got into genealogy, and she hooked up with a fellow named Slaney in Newfoundland. And so she's doing genealogy. So by the way, there's a guy named John Slaney that plays. You think I'm related to him? And yep. You are a cousin of his, some kind of a cousin. So here you are taking pictures. You're doing this, and John Slaney, who comes from St. John's, Newfoundland, is a relative. So you get that out of sports and taking pictures, etc. So this is a picture of John Slaney, who was taken on, when do they have that here? March 9th, 2005, which this is the Philadelphia Phantoms. They would win the Stanley Cup. So the trivia question that goes with this, to get a nice a golf package from a Vidya bank, has to do with Newfoundland. And
Are we eligible for this?
You're eligible after the first guy wins.
Okay.
I thought you were going to ask about a teammate. I probably would have known the answer because I covered him.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that.
Okay.
So, Newfoundland in World War I and World War II, they fought under the British flag. They were part of the British Empire. They were not a province of Canada. The question is, in what year did Newfoundland become a province of Canada? There's your question. So that's John Slaney. That's the story behind the picture. Very nice guy. And there's another picture here I want to show. Kind of didn't embarrass we could, my grandson. And this picture was taken in 2007. There's John Slaney. You're better looking at him. And that's my grandson, Brendan. And I think he's eye to eye with John right now because he's at Boston College.
There you go.
But you never know when you take a picture. You never know who you're going to get or where you're with. You did the Philadelphia Phantoms.
I did.
John Slaney was on that team.
Yes, he was.
They won the championship.
The year that we didn't cover them.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I think they won it in 05, right? The Calder Cup in 05. Bill Barber, the head coach.
Yeah.
And I did the AHL on CN8 package in 2004 and broadcast from Manchester and Hartford and Hershey and Philadelphia. There were the hubs that we went to. And next year I said, we doing this again? And they said, no. The Phantoms win, and we didn't do their games that year. Go figure. But that's the way it goes.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, because there are very few broadcasters that get to call a championship game. Did you ever call a championship game? Have you ever had the opportunity?
No.
I did the Arena Bowl in China. So
Did-
there you
really?
go, if that counts.
It's on your resume. That's all that
And
matters.
it's on YouTube. It's a great call. The
Yeah.
Beijing Lions beat the Qingdao Clipper. And a member of the Qingdao Clipper, he was not the starting quarterback, is Sean Brackett, who is now your Pirates quarterback.
Yeah.
But they missed a field goal, but there was an illegal corner blitz.
Oh, my God.
They kicked it again and they made it. So that's how they won the game. Yeah, so it went back and forth. on
Do
the last
you
play.
do you have any preconceived calls or things you want to say when you're on the air? It's just boom, it's ad lib what comes out.
I don't have anything pre-perceived. The only thing I brought up to Eric was like the home run call, because and you can chronicle it. But if I say I don't know what the home run call is in Boston, but if I say it is high, it is far, it is gone, it's John Sterling, right?
Yeah.
So mine was, that it is tag time, and he tagged it. The only thing that would be preconceived, and it's usually in baseball.
Yeah.
Other than that, no, I don't.
How about you, Eric?
No,
Except
I don't
the
know.
ding, ding, ding.
well, ding, ding, ding.
Well,
But
how about give us both of you, give us a call on a goal. Now, what do you say when it's a goal?
he
score, goal.
You put me on the spot.
No, well, I know, but do you say score? Do you say goal? Or you forget?
He shoots, he scores.
shoots,
It's.
yeah.
I think it's important to make sure that you say he shoots. Like there's some that just says goal or score. There has to be a shot involved before there's a goal.
Well, it could be kicked in. You never know.
Shot, goal, deflection in front.
Right.
Lindquist got it. One of those.
Okay, so I know I listened to the NHL on Sirius, and for a number of times they were giving the final call of the NHL championship game, the final game. So I'd rate them, and you guys can do better than me. But the two iconic to me were Nick Nixon when he did the L.A. Kings. The Kings wear their crown after 40 years, and Dave Gosha after 39. Get the Ducks boat ready after 39 years. I give the edge, not because I like the guy, but to Dave Gosha, because he does what very few do if you listen to a championship call. He says the Bruins won the 2011 Stanley Cup. He gave the year. If you listen to many of the calls, it'd be the Yankees win the World Series. Well, they won 5 in a row. What year was that? That's my own interpretation. They gave the year. Make sense? Criticize me. What do you think?
I think when you're going to do something like that, I wouldn't call it cheating, but you can be prepared.
Yeah.
Because you say, gee, what would I say if the Bruins won the 2019 Stanley Cup?
Yeah.
Is it Lord Stanley has returned to Boston? You can
probably
kind
think about it.
You can think about it. You can write that down and say, if they win, I'm saying this. But I think only in a championship moment can you do that.
Yeah. It's a clinching game.
Maybe you might, if you're Jim Nantz, you might, if Tiger wins this Masters, what do I want to say?
But he has a whole different delivery.
True, but you have a chance to think about it. What would I say if he wins? He may never use it this year.
That's true. You may never use it.
This year he did. So, but I think it all comes to preparation. I mean, Eric talked about getting his charts together. I do the same thing. The last 2 major preparedness items I've seen have been Tiger winning, and then they go back to that footage of him hugging his dad.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody had to have that ready, so some producer really did his job. And if you are a Philadelphia Eagles fan, when Cody Parkey hits the upright and the Eagles win that game because the kick got missed, he had hit the upright 5 times in the season. God. And after they did their interview, they said, well, we could have expected this. Boom, 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 boom. They showed the balls hitting the upright 5 times in 5 different games. I'm thinking, wow, somebody really did their homework and said, if this happens, I got this ready to go. Yeah. And they did.
Yeah. And what did they have that they didn't use?
Oh, right.
But that's the other. You don't know. You don't know.
But that's what it is.
All right. I got to ask you, too, if you have a trick that's right here. And I'm amazed, like at horse race announcers, they do a race 10 horses, forget that, next 10 horses, boom, boom, boom. You guys, you come in a new league, ECHL, you did Lehigh, whatever, and you got to learn the opposition, usually, the players, the numbers. Sometimes you're doing 3 different teams and 3 different nights, and how do you prepare for the other team to get the numbers ingrained in who the players are?
Well, on radio you can cheat a little bit. Well, TV is a little. You got to be a little bit more on. But I spend more time on the opposing team than you do your own team because you know your team, right? Yeah. So it doesn't mean you don't get tidbits for your home players, but in the ECHL, we played Manchester 12 times last year. So by the 4th, 5th game, they were just like my guys.
You know those guys, yeah.
But
like the Growls, when the Growls came in, you saw the Growls a few times, but first time, you got 20 different guys out there all of a sudden.
Now I say it's easier than it was 10 years ago because you can just Google a guy and you get all the information right there. Back then, it was more of, media guides and it was whatever the visiting team prepared for you to learn about the players. So
yeah, but you got to, when you're broadcasting the game, from puck to puck, you got to memorize what number this 10 is. 10
Again,
is.
I got my format. I got
You got it right there.
Yeah, I got all the numbers down. 1 through 30, and everyone's got their own little cheat sheet on how that works. But again, over the course of the game, you pick up on them relatively quickly. Does number 12 have his hair kind of hanging out the back? You look for little nuances on each. Someone's 6'8", he's easy to recognize. Yeah. So you kind of is he a left-hand shot or a right-hand shot? So. Some locations aren't as friendly as others. Meaning, at the DCU Center, we got a great spot. Right at center ice or right at the 50-yard line. We're pretty fortunate. But some places you go, you're up in the catwalk in the corner somewhere, and you need binoculars to see. So, it's you got to kind of go with the environment that you're in.
Who's got the worst jersey numbers?
Because
that's how I always look at it. Can I read them? No, I can't.
Manchester was tough.
Yeah, there you go. See?
Yeah.
And a lot of people would never think about that. They're like, I can't identify these people. They're almost blind.
Yeah, and on TV, maybe people can't see the number either. I don't know.
It's hard.
But that's. But I agree. On sometimes the radio, the goalie made the over the left wing, the first baseman caught. I mean, sometimes you have just a mental block. So I know I've watched this show sometimes. I said, I didn't mean to say that. It came out the wrong way. But any memorable moment, good or bad, that you have from the memory box here?
There's every season. There's it generally a lot of it is stuff that happens off the ice. A road trip. When you're on a bus for 14 hours going to Wheeling, West Virginia. There's a lot of stories that get involved with that, driving through the night. So, if we want to go for a beer, after this, I got loads of stories, I could fill you in on. But, there was a time going to St. John's, we're on a flight, and long story short, there was a huge storm. And I'm sitting next to our goaltender, Troy Grosnick, at the time. And it's midnight. It's snowing hard, and the captain comes on and goes, "Ladies and gentlemen," and our flight had already been canceled 3 times. And he goes, "We're going to be the last plane that's going to be able to fly in. However, if I don't like the approach, we're going to pull off in the last moment." So he goes, "Expect wild turbulence." And as soon as he said that, the plane just shook. And I'm holding Troy Grosnick's hand, like people are crying, praying to God, like we thought we were going down. So, we're flying in, and, what I mean, it is snowing out. I barely look out, and I can see the runway, and the pilot curved off at the last moment, didn't like the approach, so he got on and goes, "We're going to try it one more time." The entire plane's like, "No way, no way." Like, we were begging, like, "Do not do this again." So we ended up flying back to Halifax and spent the night there. But a lot of travel stories over the years.
But you're here.
I'm here. I made it.
Mick?
My favorite one, well, there's a few, but here's one I like best. I'm a young reporter covering baseball. Harry Callis and Joe Morgan, right, Hall of Famer, Cincinnati Reds, but he was playing with the Giants at the time. And the manager was Frank Robinson. And the quick version is, Harry says to Joe, "Well, you had that play in the 8th inning. Why didn't you bunt that guy over the second base?" And Joe says, "Well, Harry, we were gonna. But we looked down the end of the dugout for the sign." He says, and Frank was taking a nap, and it's the end of a road trip, and nobody had the guts to wake him. Yeah, and there you go. So we're all having a drink, sitting at the table, telling him stuff. I mean, you never hear that, but it was great.
Yeah, the true stories are the best stories.
Absolutely.
And, as you say, maybe sometimes off the ice, and you get to know these guys after a while.
You do, and I still keep in touch with a lot of the players that I've had over the years. A lot of them, it's the first time they've ever lived on their own. They're in a new city, so they kind of look for some guidance, and that's one part of the jobs that I really enjoy.
All right, well, I think we've covered sports from China to San Jose. You were there to Worcester.
There you go.
I want to thank Eric. Thanks for coming on, Mick.
My
This
pleasure.
has been enjoyable. This is Paul McGrath on the sidelines, but I'm saying don't forget the Mass Pirates. Don't forget the Worcester Realist. Paul McGrath on the sidelines saying thanks for watching.